So tonight's guest we have on John Ayo, and I'm very excited because he's kind of like me. You know, he's in this holistic natural health field, right? But he's got a bachelor's in engineering, correct, John?
Yes, that's right.
Yes. And he also has an MBA. So he's like this left-brained guy, you know, with all this information. He's done classes for the last 8 years traveling for IBM. He's a trainer, contracted trainer for IBM. And he is also a naturopath. So it's like, here's the left brain, and the naturopath stuff is also left brain, but he's really, really passionate even about energy medicine as well, including all the other natural medicine stuff, which that takes some right brain stuff to grasp that. So it's a balance. He's been practicing natural medicine for about 7 years. Last year he got a little more serious. He does it part-time, but he's got an incredible, vast knowledge about natural medicine. Like I say, he does energy frequency work. He's got some technologies for biofeedback, very aware of, you know, energies in the environment like EMFs, nutrition, and of course, essential oils that goes along with that. And I know you got put on this journey, about 15 years ago with your own health stuff?
Right, yeah. I was a sales rep in IBM and doing well, and just got sick and started running into all these problems and went to the medical route, and unfortunately they couldn't solve it, right? And it was really challenging, as you know. And so I started doing my own engineering problem solving and just got fascinated with the world of natural health.
And that's what set you on this road. What was the first, I guess you'd say, first things that you tried that you said, wow, this stuff is like, there might be something to this natural medicine thing.
The first thing I tried was actually homeopathy. And, you know, these little bitty little sugar pellets, how can those things really do anything? And I took some of those things, and boy, I found myself in bed for like a day because I took too many.
Oh, my gosh.
And they are very, very powerful, and especially if you get the right match, because that's the original energy medicine is homeopathics.
Well, that's what's so funny about homeopathy. Being a really left-brain person, it's just like, okay, you mean to tell me that the energy of that thing that's supposed to be what this is in here? You know, like at first it's like, are you kidding me? And then you have an experience like that, and it's like, oh, okay.
Yep, something's going on, whatever it is, right? And they're really used pretty heavily in Europe. I was in Germany last year, and they have homeopathic shops, which is interesting because that's where it started, was in Germany. And
those Germans are so smart.
Yes.
They are. They're so smart. So, and you got kicked off in Young Living about 8 or 9 years ago. How did that happen? You know, because you were doing homeopathy, and about that, did you start your naturopathic doctor program before or after Young Living?
I think I started before. I was down the path and studying nutrition and going through all the different pieces, and then a friend said, oh, you need to go meet this natural healer that lives in Keller, Texas. Okay, well, I don't even know where that is, but let me go meet with her. And I did, and so she introduced me to a bunch of cool energy devices, and then she said, oh, and you really need to have these oils. And I'm like, okay, what are these oils? So she pulls out her big, case that has all the oils in it. I'm like, whoa, how do you know what to do with all those bottles?
Right.
And, yeah, so it was a little overwhelming, but they smell good, and then she told me some stories, and I started trying them, and like all of us, you just kind of get hooked on that.
Those little bottles talk to you. It's just crazy. You know, you look at them all, and you're like, wow, there's they remind me of shiny jewelry. And maybe it's not the same for you, John, being a guy. I don't know what trips your trigger, but when I see shiny things, I just go crazy. And that's what the oils are like for me. I look at those oil bottles, and they just captivated me, and I had to know what they were.
Right. And what is this stuff all about? And then you start learning about it, and you realize, this is one of the original medicines from way, way, way back.
Well, I don't know about you, and when we were talking, I think you are very similar, because I bought the Desk Reference before I bought any oils, and I researched and read that book, and it was the purple one, like forever and ever ago, and I read that book first, and I remember putting together my first order, and I remember reading that book and looking at the research abstracts going, how come people don't know about this?
Right.
If this stuff is true about what these oils can do, how come people don't know about this?
Right. Exactly. Well, you got the purple book. That's the one that's worth like $1,000 now, right?
I'll get 2 copies of it too.
Oh man, yeah. So I'm with you. You know, being an engineer, I'm reading this book. You know, highlighting things, going, oh man, I need this one. Oh wow, I really need this one. And then you go through and you end up with, you know, I need a list of these 50. But
Yes.
it is fascinating. And right, how come people don't know this stuff? And yeah, I do several presentations around, and you know, I have a slide that talks about some of the history of where we came from in this country. And one of the books I loved the most in my doctorate program was called When Healing Becomes a Crime.
Me too. Oh my gosh.
And so you read about Harry Hoxsey, who was here in Dallas.
Yes.
And you know, the short answer, of course, is money. And when you read about the beginnings, that book talks about the beginnings of the American Medical Association and the fight that was going on with the medical doctors and their association and the advertising dollars, and then they're going after this guy that said he could cure cancer and actually did. And oh, it's fascinating. It reads like a soap opera, doesn't it?
Oh, I'm going to admit this. I've been caught and known to be punching that book. Like I was reading it, I'd be punching the pages because I was so angry with some of the stuff that happened in there. Anger management needed, yes.
Yeah, get your release out. That's right.
Well, did you know, since you talked about that book, did you know we have his herbal blood cleansing formula?
I don't think I saw that, no.
Young Living has the formula. It does not say that you've got to put it together, but I remember reading the book going, remember he had the salve, and then he'd give people the tincture, right?
Right.
The tincture, we have that tincture. It's called Rehemagen.
Ah, I did not know
Except
that.
Gary added in the apricot seed. It's the same formula as Harry Hoxsey's formula, except Gary added in just a couple things.
Wow.
Just so you know, I want everybody to buy a bottle of that because we don't ever want that to go away. Because that is a true gem. If you read that book, you'll know why. So I'm so glad you brought that up because then I got to tell you that. Now you know you can go stock up on Rehemagen.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, and the way things go these days, you better buy it now because you just never know what the way things are.
No, you just don't know. It's true. So that's funny you brought that up because, like I said, that book evokes quite a bit of passion. And there's also a movie. I've never watched the movie because I figured I had so much emotional, stuff come up with the book. But you can find the movie online and watch the movie that was made about Harry Hoxsey. Yeah, and I don't know if it's on what video, but if you search When Healing Becomes a Crime movie, you should be able to find it, or people that are listening, you guys can find it. So I don't know. It was an independent film. I don't know who made it, but it is out there. Very, very, very interesting. So you got into the oils and thinking, holy cow, this stuff is like, if we need to learn more and fascinated. And yeah, like you said before when we talked, you said the more we learn, the less we realize we know.
Exactly.
And you get humbled, like, oh my gosh, there's just so much to know.
It is. Yeah, you start this thing off with, I'm going to learn about oils. Well, maybe I'll just spend this weekend, maybe next weekend too, right? And then you get into it and you go, oh my God, this is like a whole lifetime of research required to really understand how things are working. Of course, you can do a lot with just a little bit of information. You can do a lot with just lavender, right? But,
and that's true. And the thing is that people, I've heard it over and over where people say, I need to learn more about the oils before I do a business. And that you'll never know enough. And the more you learn, the more you realize you don't know, and then you're going to be less likely to do a business. And, anyways, the desk references or any reference book is your best friend. Just open the book, show it to somebody, and say, here, you read it. I'll tell you what I've used.
Absolutely. Yep.
It's cool. So you've written your own book, and you have this I've seen it and I've read it, and it's just like really, I love the way you lay out things. It's very frank, very clear, very easy on the eyes, like you said, it's a conversational, written in that manner. It's called Travel Balance, and you've got a Young Living version of that where you've got what it takes for people to travel, stay healthy, stress-free, love, going around the world, whether it's for business or for pleasure or whatever, and still not get worn down. Because I know I used to travel a lot. I mean, everywhere around the world. And I got really burned out from it. So do you want to share, why did you even write that book?
Well, yeah, I've had, several friends similar to what you're commenting is, boy, how do you do this? And how do you stay healthy? It's so hard to travel. And for the first 20 years of my career in IBM, I used to travel domestically, pretty much all over the U.S., and didn't really do much international. And then I started this new job teaching our sales class internationally for the last 8 years. And so traveling all over, it's exhausting, and it's really, really hard on your body, and
Yes.
the security systems are not making it easier. It makes it more difficult. And so I had people just ask me, what do you do when you travel? So, rather than just tell people things or, write down a note here or there, I thought, well, you know what, let me just document this. And so I wrote it as a conversational kind of tutorial to say, here are the things that I do and some things you might consider. And I wrote it chronologically from, beginning of your trip to till you get back.
Yes, and I just love it. It's really, really, really good. Now, when you travel, what are 2 oils that you absolutely never leave at home?
Boy, the 2 you definitely don't want to be without are thieves and Digize. Those have saved me many, many times.
How so?
Well, I've been, like when you get on day 2 of a 2-week trip and you're in China and you start getting a sore throat and you start feeling like, oh, I think I'm coming down with the flu or something. What did I pick up on the airplane? And you can do thieves and thieves spray and wake up the next morning feeling okay. That's a huge lifesaver, right? And then the other one, of course, is when you go out to eat, you come back and you're like, uh-oh, I'm not feeling good. And a lot of times I'll just bring my Digize to dinner with me and, just kind of go around the table. All you got to do is make sure you have a little glass with a little water in it, and you just put a drop or 2 in there, and boy, that stuff is magic.
I'll just tell a quick story. I got 2 interesting quick stories on the oils with food. One is I have a friend who, her and her husband went out to dinner, and she didn't do Digize, but she did the longevity capsules. So this is, pretty much very similar situation. She took her longevity before the meal. He did not. He got food poisoning. She did not. And she ate the same food as he ate. Right there is like, holy smokes. And the other, when we were in Ecuador in 2006, I think it was, we all came down with some mysterious GI thing, we'll put it that way. And boy, I tell you, if we did not have Digize, we would have been in serious, serious trouble. And because you're in Ecuador, like I'd be more afraid of going to the hospital there than anywhere.
Right.
And things were coming out our mouth and the backside as fast. Literally, you couldn't even take a capsule. So what we did is we put the oils in the water, 5-10 drops, drank it down. And I know this is a lot of information, but it would come back up. But at least we would figure by putting it in the water, some of it would get absorbed. We just kept doing that and doing that and doing that. And within 10 hours, we had that stopped. Yeah. It was amazing. And you thank goodness. I would say bring 2 bottles of each with you. So, because you never know, what's going to happen.
Oh, that's true. And in certain places, you have to, a big part of the whole travel balance in the book and what I do when I travel is you have to plan ahead, right? So when I go to Mexico, I have these Mexico capsules that I make that have a
Mexico capsules?
Huh? What's that?
I just said Mexico capsules.
Mexico capsules, yeah. So it's kind of my own preventive blend, and it came from my good friend here in Dallas, Danette Goodyear, who many of you know is a diamond in Young Living, and she's one of my favorite teachers, and she actually wrote the foreword to this book. And so when I was working with her, she was working with me as a client because, we naturopaths love to work on each other. And so I told her I was going to Mexico, and she goes, oh, you need to take this special blend. So I'm like, okay. So I'm sitting in the kitchen mixing up, a dozen capsules or more so that I have enough to take twice a day preventively. And, I've been there, maybe 4 or 5 times now, and thank God I've never had any digestive issues at all.
Is that recipe in your book?
It is.
Oh.
Yeah, Mexico capsule from Danette. Yes, and so it's really powerful. I mean, the whole point of all of this, and it's not just for the trip, right? So the book I wrote is certainly to help you when you travel, getting on an airplane or going somewhere, but it's about the journey, right? And the journey is not just getting on a plane and going somewhere, it's your life. And so a lot of the things that are in this book are not just things you would do when you travel, but also at home. So, sleeping arrangements and how to set up for that, and how do you prevent when you're getting sick at home and you're, beginnings of a flu. What do I do to knock that thing out? So prevention, as you know, is just foundational to natural health. Once things set in and you've been sick for 2 or 3 days, once that virus or bacteria or whatever gets set in, it's pretty difficult to do something other than let it run its course. But there's so much we can do at the beginning if you catch it really early and nail it with some of these products.
So how and why could this book help even somebody who's building a business? How could they use this as a tool, or what are your thoughts with that?
Well, most of us know either travel or know someone that does travel, so it's a great way to kind of get your foot in the door to say, hey, if you travel or your husband or your wife travels or whatever, here's a book. You can give it to them, or you can buy it for them, or have them buy it, or whatever. And it's going to help them to start using the Young Living products, not just the oils, but some of the enzymes and some of the other the powders that we have for the drinks. You can have a nice healthy meal on the go, or the bars. Just start using the products just to help you with your trip. And then people start asking questions about, well, wait a minute, can I do this while I'm at home too? Well, of course. And then there's so much more. The trick with Travel Balance is that you don't want to take everything you own on the plane, and they don't want you to either. So you got to just limit your inventory down to what is the bare minimum that I can take with me and be covered for the majority of things that might happen.
Right, exactly. So let's talk a little bit about what's in these chapters so that people have an idea, because it's really good, and I think that everybody needs a copy of this, because we get I don't know, we already talked about this. You get overwhelmed, and we've got all these amazing products, but what do you take? What do you leave home? What is going to cover the most? When you're in a third world country, what is going to cover your butt, if something happens? You can't bring the entire aroma complete. Well, you could, but that would be, it would be crazy. So we're limited in what we can travel with. And even if you checked it, it would be like, holy, I don't know if I would check that.
Exactly. Will you see it again?
Yeah, would you see it again? Maybe not. Here's these
right.
strange, smelly liquids that, and it's just crazy. So, in your first chapter, you talk about what to bring.
Right.
What are some of the top things to bring, and how do you even get organized enough to do that?
Well, one of the things I put in there is I put a copy of my checklist that I use in the back of the book, so it has kind of the details, and you can actually download off my website, because it's important to have it. It's so much easier to have a checklist when you travel, because for me, I spend the majority of my time packing the just-in-case stuff, which becomes critical if you need it. It's kind of a pain to do, but so important. So you just have a checklist of all the items that you need. So this first chapter is about what do I need to get ahead of time. So if I need DiGi's and I'm leaving for a trip tomorrow, I don't want to look in the pantry and see that I've got 3 drops left.
Right.
So it's a little bit of planning ahead to say, you know what, use those essential reward points and get your order in a week or 2 before you go. So what kind of things do I need to have? Do I need Balance Complete? Do I need to get some Wolfberry Crisp bars or some Ninja Red packets, or what kinds of things do I need to plan ahead, because it's going to take time to get them? Or just go to the store and get oatmeal packets and food, because unfortunately on the airplanes and in some hotels and places, you kind of need to have your own food just in case, because you never know what you're going to run into.
No, and some of you guys may know and some of you may not know, but Gary Young created Power Meal basically to sustain on when he was in those places he goes to, which are sometimes very questionable. And that's why he created Power Meal, it's literally a meal that you could live off of for a period of time when you're traveling if no other food was available.
Yep, and that's great to have, because again, You don't know. It's like in some places, often when I fly back home, my flight's at 6 in the morning. I have to leave the hotel at 4 in the morning. There's no place to get food, and so if you just have hot water, just have a little, one of those little hot water kettles in your room. You can take your bottled water, put it in there, and if you have your packet of oatmeal, you just throw that in, or you get your Balance Complete, or as you said, Power Meal, make a shake, and boom.
You know what would be good too is to spike it up with a little oil, like either put a little drop of, orange or lemon in there or something like that. That would be, even cinnamon, if you traveled with cinnamon, it would be just delicious so that you could have a really, really good and health promoting. I wouldn't put digest in the oatmeal. That'd be pretty nasty. Did you ever taste the old Power Meal? Did you come in at that time?
I don't know. It was probably, the first one I had was maybe 2005.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting taste, to say the least, right?
It was like, I can't even describe. It tasted like sawdust, and it's gone through like 2 other little tweaks in flavor and formula, and thank goodness, dairy. Thank goodness. That's all we have to say.
Well, but as you know, going through your own health journey, I got to the point where if I'd go to a doctor and they'd say, well, this doesn't taste good, I'm like, just tell me how much to take. If it's dirt, I'll eat it. If it's going to help me feel better. Because you get to that point. So I can tolerate all kinds of things. But, yeah, that was definitely an interesting one.
Well, there was a product we used to have that I wish would come back. It was called AminoTech. And did you ever get AminoTech?
I did not.
Oh, it was fantastic. It was really expensive. It was like $100.
Whoa.
But aminos are expensive. Like good aminos are a lot of money, and people don't realize that when they go to GNC and see some junk there. But this product was absolutely fantastic, and that tasted really special. Let me tell you that. But it was great. That one kind of went to the wayside because nobody was buying it, because nobody knew what it really did, and it was $100 a can. So there you go.
Right.
That's what happened.
Well, that's the tricky part. And even if it's not $100, a lot of times, that comes up around, some of the Young Living world is, God, it's so expensive. But, you get what you pay for is what you realize. Yeah, you can go to GNC and you can get something, and you can go to Whole Foods and buy oils, and, man, look how cheap it is. Yes, it is. And
yes. When you're in like going out to eat in China, are you going to use that blend, to get any results?
Exactly. Yeah, you only need to be sick once to realize you want the good stuff, and you don't have a chance. You may not have a chance to get it with the second one, so you better make sure you have the good stuff.
Yes, absolutely. So, what do you advise people to take actually on the plane with them?
Well, I'll tell you, one of the things you better figure out how to get on that plane is water, because that's the thing you need more than anything else when you're flying, because you get so dehydrated at those high altitudes, especially if you're on a 5, 6, 15-hour flight, whatever it is. And it's hard. I've been in airports where you go through and, you can't bring your water, of course. So you go through security, then you go buy your water. And then I've gotten on planes where right before you get on the plane, they have a checkpoint and they take your water away. I'm like, I just bought this. Oh, I'm sorry. If they even understand you, because it may not be in English, but they, then you get on the plane and then you're at the mercy of the flight attendants, and you got to be careful to make sure you're getting the good bottled water from the flight attendants, because sometimes that may not be the case. But things you want to bring with you, if you can, if it's especially domestic flight, you want to bring, some food with you. Bring some bars. I always have bars in my bag just in case. But then if you're on a, fairly short flight or whatever, you can bring cut up fruit and bring things from home, or of course granola. Go to the store and do some shopping and just prep ahead. But the airplane food is risky.
Yes, Anybody who's looked at one of those, it looks like it just reminds me of one of those TV dinners from like the 1970s. That's what those things remind me of. They're just like, oh my goodness, not fit for human consumption.
Sometimes it's hard. If you're in business class now, that's a little different story. But we don't get there very often. But sometimes those are pretty good.
So when people are at the airport, we'll go into the next. We'll move to the next, because we've gone from getting ready, the checklist, and what to bring on the plane. So when you're at the airport, do you have any tips for staying active and getting through security?
So the first thing that I recommend, especially if you travel a bunch, is to opt out of security. And a lot of people don't realize that you can do that, and it's not really a big deal. You may get an eye roll, but they're usually pretty nice about it. So you just go through the line. When you get to the front, I just say opt out, and then they opt out, and then they call for a guy if you're a guy, or a woman if you're a female, and then they just kind of pat you down. It takes a little bit longer, but it's usually not a big deal. If you have the TSA pre-check thing and you can go through that scanner that's kind of like the old ones, then that's
Yes.
not as bad. But those backscatter ones where you have to stand there with your hands above your head,
That is freaky.
well, they tell you it's all safe, it's no big deal, and I'm like, it may very well be safe, but I don't know that we know enough to know that, and I'm not willing to risk it if I'm flying, 7, 8 times a year. So that's, first step is, avoid that radiation that you're getting. We don't need X-rays every time we get on the plane. And
No, we don't. We don't. I know
second,
they say. I'm mumbling. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
yeah, no, exactly. I mean, it's tough, but again, a lot of people don't realize it's just not a big deal to do that. A lot of people, hey, I don't want people staring at me. Well, I'd rather them stare at me than have all that radiation from the thing. So I just kind of walk around it. And then, for a lot of people, when they ask about the oils, you can just put them through. I put some hematite is a special stone that we use, and I put some hematite in a Ziploc bag with my oils, the ones I'm bringing on the plane with me, and that helps protect from that because they're going through that. You got to put them through the scanner. And that's the trouble. That's the other downside of, bringing your whole kit with you is there is that risk when you're taking your kit that they're going to somehow muck with the oils and radiate those things, and they're not going to be as effective. So that's why you don't want to bring everything you own with you, and you're going to do your best to protect the oils that you do bring with you. Haven't had any issues so far. I did run into, last fall I went to Colombia, and I was sitting at the little baggage carousel, waiting for my bag. Here comes the police officer with the police dog, and they're walking around, and sure enough, this dog comes over to me, and, man, he's sniffing at my bag, and the guy's like, okay, man. Of course, I speak a little bit of Spanish, but anyway, what we figured out was that the dog found my bag of essential oils, and so pulled him out, and he looked at him and just smiled and waved, and off he went.
That's awesome.
But the dog found him right away.
Well, the oils, and all of us know animals love the oils, and yes, definitely. And sometimes they even will act like it's a drug. They do their little thing that they do, and it's like, you got to bring it out and be like, oh no, here's Luckily, oils have become popular enough now that they can see them and understand that they're not dangerous or weird. But boy, flying 10 years ago was a little challenging.
Yeah, exactly. It is.
So what about
you were asking about at the airport? Yeah, part of travel balance and the concepts that I bring into this book are, I'm going to call it realism, because I love to do exercise when I'm at home. I do yoga, I do Zumba, I do Aikido, and when you travel, it's tough. And so, rather than stress yourself out and go, okay, I'm going to bring all my stuff. I'm going to get up at 4 in the morning and go to the gym, and then I'm going to get back at 8 and go work out again, and it's just hard to do. So if you can do it, that's great, but I just kind of advocate picking up your exercise where you can, and a great place is the airport because it's so big, and there's lots of people there.
Yeah, what do? Do you walk, or what do you stretch?
Exactly.
Or?
So you got my bag, my bag, and I usually have a backpack, so I got some extra weight on, and I just walk from one end of the terminal to the other end of the terminal and back and forth, and people watch. I get my water, I'm drinking water, and I'm getting my pre-trip exercise going.
Cool.
Yeah.
So, and going with exercise, we keep going through your book here, chapter 3. One thing you talk about is being on the plane and sleeping. We got exercise, you got your water, you're hydrated. When you got a longer flight, how do you handle sleeping? Because that's tricky when you're on a plane.
It is definitely tricky, unless you're somebody that's taking Ambien. And when I have people go, oh yeah, that's easy, I'll just take Ambien. I'm like, oh.
And you're sleepwalking, and then
yeah, and you can. Not that I'm not here to say it's a bad thing, but you better be careful and not do it very often. And there are more natural ways that kind of work with the body to help with that. But the first part about it, I think, is that people think they have to sleep on the plane, or I'm going to be exhausted on the other end. I am notoriously not a good sleeper on the airplane, and so I just kind of go into what I call suspended animation. So I I set up my environment as peaceful as I can with noise-canceling headphones and a bunch of other things that I list. And, of course, peace and calming lavender, the oils that you're smelling that are putting you in a relaxed state. Take a couple of sleep essence pills, which are they have some oils in there along with melatonin that can really just kind of help put you in a nice, calm spot. Close your eyes, listen to some peaceful music. If you sleep, great. If you don't, you got to at least close your eyes. That's the trick, though, is that you can't sit on the plane and watch 15 movies just because they're there. Otherwise, because you're stimulating your brain, so you gotta at least rest, and you can do enough to get you by until you get off the plane.
That's a good point. And do you have anything to help? Well, I guess I'm jumping ahead. I'll talk about that later, because you talk about resetting your body so that when you travel through time zones, but that's in later chapters.
No, it starts on the airplane, actually. So if I'm, like next month I'm flying to Japan, which is about 12-hour difference. So when I get on the plane here at 11 o'clock in the morning, the first thing I do when I get on that plane is I just completely reset my brain to it's 11 p.m. And I just never look back. A lot of people go, wow, it's 8 o'clock back home. You're messing with your head when you do that. So I get on the plane, I set myself at 11 p.m. You and I talked about EFT earlier. I do some EFT kinds of things, emotional freedom technique tapping, to just tap into my body and say it's 11 o'clock. So you can just say it to yourself over and over again. It's 11 p.m. It's 11 p.m. And you just start setting your body clock to your destination as soon as you get on the plane.
Yes, that is a big deal, because jet lag is not fun. I know you also use a homeopathic that you recommend for jet lag that works really well.
There's a really good one called No Jet Lag from out of New Zealand. And I've been using that for a while. It's little sugar pills, things. Oh, does this really do anything? You know what? It's helped me, so I take it every time I travel. And you put them in your mouth and chew them up every 2 hours on your flight, and they help with body symptoms around jet lag. And so I do a combination of things. And so I don't know if I could rank which ones do the most, but I do them all, and for me at least, they tend to be pretty powerful.
So that is, I think that was chapter 4 that we just talked about. And you also talk about in that chapter your flight routine for bedtime. Is that with the winding down and the melatonin and all that you were talking about?
Exactly. And now you're in your hotel room, so you can get your diffuser out if you brought one, or you can get your hot ball out and stick it in the air vent and get some nice smells going in the room. And then just kind of it's setting the environment and the tone and the energy in that hotel room so you can sleep. So watching the R-rated super drama adventure movie right before you go to bed might not be your best idea. You kind of have to wind down. In fact, most of my trips I'm gone for like 9 or 10 days, and on most of them I never turn the TV on. And that's not because the most germy thing in that room is the remote for the TV. Not to mention that, but I just don't. I mean, I'll read or do something else.
Because we don't, there's, even though you're traveling, and it doesn't feel like this, but there's a lot of stress that's put on your body when you're traveling. Mm-hmm. And whether, think about just flying, you're up in the air 30,000 feet in a pressurized, tube. That alone, I don't even want to know what a live blood cell analysis would look like if somebody was there with a microscope on the other end of the destination and took your blood right when you get off the plane. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
I wonder what that would look like, It's just like,
and now we have Wi-Fi. We had Wi-Fi into the middle, too, bouncing around.
That's true. There's advantages to disadvantages. Do you wear any personal EMF protection on your body?
I do. I have a necklace that I wear that protects and keeps the EMF fields kind of away. And then I also have a device on my phone that protects your body when you have the phone in your pocket.
Very nice. I got some off. What is it? I got a Q-Link on my phone, and I had a Q-Link that I wore, but I lost it. Somebody stole it out of one of my hotel rooms.
Wow.
It's like, what? Obviously, somebody needed it more than me.
Right. Well, but surprisingly, the oils are pretty powerful when it comes to that kind of protection as well. So just having your oils with you and around you can help. It's not the best. Like you said, it's very stressful on the body to be at high altitudes. I mean, you're close to the sun, and Yes, I talk about a lot of different things in the book about how do you minimize that impact on your body, because if you're traveling a couple times a month, that's a lot of radiation.
What oils are I actually came up with an EMF blend. I'm going to see if I can find it. But what are your favorites for that type of protection? That
I'm a big White Angelica fan, and I don't have the research on the EMS on the oil, so I'll be interested to see what you find. I use White Angelica and Valor are probably two of the most important for me, and the ones I use the most when I'm on the plane. Just protection from most people.
I made a blend. Oh, of course. I'm trying to find where I put it. When you've got a computer that you've transferred your files for 15 years, sometimes it's hard to find where you put things.
Yes.
And I'm trying to find that. I know it had, and I actually found research that went into this.
Mm-hmm.
It was spikenard and Melaleuca alternifolia, rose oil for the frequency.
Mm-hmm.
But there's actually EMF research out there on spikenard. And Melaleuca alternifolia, which we know there's research out there that shows Melaleuca alternifolia and radiation. And there was a third. It was a stinky blend. You know what, guys? I don't remember. It might have been valerian. There was a third oil. I can't remember what it was.
Right.
But I could, while we chat, maybe I could see if I can keep finding it. But I know it was rose, Melaleuca alternifolia, and it was spikenard, but there was one more oil, but I can't remember what it is. So I'm going to try to find it.
Okay.
While we keep chatting. It's like, I'm just going to multitask a little bit here. So if I seem a little spaced out for a minute, that's what it is. I'm always spaced out a little bit. But so that is really important, though, because when we're going through those airports, there's a lot of radiation, and we don't realize that. I mean, is there, I heard a statistic once that was like, it was equivalent to getting how many X-rays going through an airport. Do you remember?
I don't know, but I mean, it's not gotten any better. That's for sure. Because now that they have these backscatter things, it's just and now we have that. You go to the grocery stores, and so many places now we're constantly bombarded with X-rays. When you're driving your car into the toll tag scanners, it's all over.
Okay, I found it. It's spikenard, Melaleuca alternifolia, Melaleuca quinquevaria, and rose. That's the blend that I made. And those Melaleucas have research on them, and so does spikenard. But rose I put in there because of the high frequency.
Sure.
And not a lot, just, maybe a couple drops.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyways, I figured I'd butt in.
That's good.
But with that, it's not the most attractive blend. The rose does help a little bit.
Right.
So when you go to your hotel, I know you do a couple things to rearrange your room. What is that you do to help with that, comfort and also reduce some EMFs and things like that?
Right. So kind of like what we're talking about. Yeah, if you can, first thing you do when you get in there is kind of look at the bed from an energy perspective. And if there's a clock radio right on the nightstand and a telephone, the first thing I always do is unplug the telephone because there's usually several in the room. So unplug the one by the bed. Move the clock radio as far away as possible, and then sleep on the other side away from it. Move the lamps away from the bed. Make sure that the TV, if you're not using it, just unplug it. And because all those EMFs while you're trying to sleep, they're going to interfere with you. And sleeping in hotel rooms can be challenging. And so everything we can do to help with that's going to be good. And of course, getting your diffuser set up and diffusing whatever piece and calming or whatever it is you want to get the right smells going is going to be helpful as well.
Absolutely. Make it feel a little bit like home and your body able to relax and things like that. Is there anything special you do about water when you're traveling? I know you talked about going in the airport and stuff like that, but what about when you're in the hotel or things like that? Do you have any tricks for that?
Yeah, one of the best things, the water is the toughest thing. It's kind of like when you go out in the wild and you got to figure out how to survive for a few days. You got to figure out where you're going to get your water, and that's what I do in the hotel. So when you go to certain countries, you have to figure out, first off, not that I'm going to drink the tap water, but if I did, would it be really bad? And so one of the tips that one of my good friends in IBM that travels even more than I do told me is, if you go in the hotel room and they give you free bottles of water, it's usually a good indication that it's not safe to drink the water. So they're telling you, kind of hinting at you there, be careful. So the first thing I do is go on a water hunt, and you can just go to the front desk and ask them where's a local convenience store and go get some. And so I've been, trekking around many cities with several gallons of water that I just carry with me for the week. But usually your tip of the day is to go find the health club, because usually in that exercise room they have a big bottled water container, and you can go fill up your bottle that you brought with you. And then
good hack. That's a good hack.
It's a good hack, but you got to be careful. Sometimes they frown on you when you walk in there, and you're not in workout clothes, and you just come to steal our water. Yes.
Yes.
Yes, I am.
Honestly, yes.
Yep. Right. So you have to be careful with that.
Yeah, that when you're in a country that is, like you go to Europe, you go to the UK, fine. When we were in Ecuador, you don't even want to leave your hotel to get water. In certain areas, you don't know the country, you don't know what's going on around there. And a lot of times people will prey on foreigners. They know that the hotels, people are wandering out. So not to be like a scaredy cat kind of person, but it's just we had that happen. And you don't venture far from your hotel sometimes unless you are escorted with somebody who lives in the country. Absolutely. Just go down to the exercise room. That's a good one. That's a really good one.
Exactly. Well, sometimes you go to the front desk and ask them if they give you the free water. A lot of times if you just go downstairs and go, hey, can I get some more bottled water? Oh, yeah, how many do you want? You'd be surprised, so it doesn't hurt to ask.
Very, very good. Now, the next chapter, you talk about eating. What can you eat while traveling? Is there anything that you want to talk about with that that would help people when they're out on the road? We're just skimming your book so that everybody gets an idea, but there's so much that is in there that people just need to get the book and read it. But any tips on that?
Well, I do. I think taking enzymes is going to help you. So essential enzymes is going to be a good thing to take pretty much with every meal, just to make sure that you have a little extra enzymes. Trying to eat things that grow, things that are more fruits and vegetable oriented versus the packaged, goodies that are there. You just have to be careful. In some of the places that are known to be, water issues, that if you're eating salads that have been washed in that water, then you might as well be drinking the water. So you have to be careful to make sure that they're using filtered water to wash those things. And, of course, as we said earlier, preventively, take your Digize or take your little prevention pill to make sure that you keep your digestive system happy.
Yes, enzymes, Digize, absolutely incredibly important when you're traveling and eating. There's just no question. I really liked your tip with a few drops of Digize before every meal, and I've actually been doing that for a couple weeks, just trying to work on my gut and stuff like that, and it's really transformed my digestion. And I've got some other people that I work with that are also doing it. It has changed. One gentleman I've been working with, it has changed his life, and just a couple drops, nothing, no big deal. A couple drops before you eat. It is just absolutely amazing, even as a regular, working on your gut in general.
Yeah.
So.
Exactly. Well, and the other thing is that I advocate, again, and some of my super health friends don't like this, but that's part of travel balance is, when you're in France, you need to eat the croissants. When you're in Germany, you're going to need to drink their beer.
Right.
And you got to go do the experience. Don't miss out by being so conservative that you sit in your hotel room and just eat salad. You need to get out and experience things. And so there's some risk that goes with it, which is why we talk about the things that we did preventively. But there's so many cool foods around the world that you don't even know about. I mean, one of my favorites when I go to Colombia, oh my God, the fruits of Colombia, I had no idea. These things I've never even heard of before, didn't even know existed. And you go there, and I mean, I don't know if you've ever had these, Jen, but guanabana or mora, maracujá, these are all these fruits. I'm like, man, I've never even heard of these things.
Yeah, the banana. Oh my goodness.
I love that stuff.
Yes.
Drinking it every day. I know there's a lot of sugar in it probably. I try and get it just plain, but man, that's good.
Well, you're so correct. And when you travel in different countries, most of the time, especially when you're in Europe, I know this is true. The wheat and the grains are completely different, and people find they don't have a problem over there at all.
Exactly. I know. Isn't that amazing? So you can be, and it's if you really have celiac disease, you're probably not going to be testing this, but if you're really gluten sensitive, and you go to Europe, and all of a sudden you eat some bread, and you go, uh-oh, and then you go, hey, that didn't bother me at all. Exactly, because it's closer to the einkorn stuff that Gary's growing, right? They're much closer to the original than this dwarf wheat we have here that has been hybridized so much that our body doesn't know what to do with it. Yeah, it's kind of sad, isn't it?
Yeah, I know. But that's what we do. We help teach people about this so they can make these decisions of what they're going to eat.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
It's very true. So let's see. You got something to say about not having time to exercise. What's your deal with that? When people say, I don't have time to exercise, because this is not just applicable to traveling. It's applicable to everybody.
Find places to exercise. There's so many opportunities, as I talked about earlier, walking at the airport, walking up and down the stairs to your hotel room. Normally, as a general policy, I try to check in and use the elevator only to check in and check out with my bag. And then after that, unless it's, I'm on the 40th floor, I'm going to walk up and down the stairs to get to my room. Go find a mall to walk around. I have also, back in the day when I used to carry all my workout stuff, I would get in the stairwell and just run up and down 20 flights of stairs. Those usually aren't the nicest places, though, the stairwells in hotels. They don't smell good.
No.
It's not good. So I didn't do that too many times, but the point is that there's opportunities all over the place to get the exercise in. And then, of course, when you're doing a trip, you're usually not going to be gone for that long, a few days to a week or two. So beef up on your exercise before you go and make up on the back end when you get home.
And, Gary, a long time ago, we used to sell this thing called the Travel Gym. I don't know if you remember that. It was basically a big rubber band.
Okay.
But you can buy those athletic rubber bands, and they'd be really easy to put in your suitcase to do even a little bit of resistance training.
Right. Oh, sure. I mean, if there's people that bring portable yoga mats, and some hotels, you can get them, check them out downstairs and watch a yoga tape. And there's all kinds of things to do if you really want to do that. All I'm saying is that we freak out so much about the exercise, again, that we miss out. Hey, do you want to go walk around the city? No, I've got to go to the gym tonight. Don't miss out on that opportunity to see things, because I have a good friend that traveled a lot with IBM, and she went to all these great cities all over the world, and she just always thought, I'll visit next time I come back. And she'd go and she'd work and back to the airport and didn't see any of the city. And now, she didn't get a chance to go back.
Right.
And so don't miss those opportunities. Take them while they're there, because email will always be there for you. Get out and go see things and meet people and experience the journey, because traveling can be such a cool thing.
So in Chapter 8, you talk about when you're traveling and some stuff comes up that you don't necessarily you didn't plan for, like allergies or headaches. I mean, you go to a country you've never been to, you might have some allergies, you might not feel well, you might have motion. What are a couple tips that people could really have some good takeaways with that?
Well, one of the magic allergy formulas in Young Living Land is just combining lavender, lemon, and peppermint. And you can just put those in a capsule and swallow them, or you can diffuse them if you have your diffuser with you, or just mix them all in your hand, rub them together, and inhale it. It's just it's a way to help. Because again, you can't bring everything for everything, so you try and bring a limited number of oils and blends, and then mix the ones you have, because of course those three are used for so many other different things. So that's a good one. I mean, the title of this chapter is really, I don't feel so good, now what?
Right.
Which is, oh
right.
my God, Well, this is why you spend all that time packing up front, so you have your just-in-case stuff. And again, we know thieves is at the center of this whole thing because it's going to help knock out just about any pathogen that's trying to take hold in your body. But one of the most important things, and here's the tip of the chapter, is you've got to avoid sugar, dairy, and wheat.
For sure.
In general, it's not good, but when you're getting sick, if you'll avoid those three things, it will really give your immune system a boost.
So one last little thing I want to see before we got this, we're winding down with time, and I want to hit this. People that are anxious when they're traveling, what is your little tips for that?
Yeah, I have in the book, I talk about, there's an energy art that I use called Jinshin Jitsu. So I have a section that talks about some energy things you can do, just holding your fingers in a certain patterns that can help with reducing anxiety. And of course, you have the oils, the peace and calming, and the lavender that all help to calm you down as well. And a lot of that goes back to emotional roots, and you kind of know if you're somebody that's anxious when you're a traveler, and it doesn't just hit at a certain point in the trip. It could be as soon as you get on the plane. And so I have a lot of things on the upfront part for people that are anxious about getting on the plane, because if you're on a 12-hour flight, for some people it's freaking them out, and that's real. And so there's some great things that we can do, and not the least of which is just holding certain fingers in these sequences that help.
Yeah, and there's little diagrams you've got in there so people can know exactly what you're talking about.
Exactly.
That's really cool. Well, we pretty much covered the whole book. I mean, I know you've got one about getting back home, but is there anything that you want to say with that? Or
Yeah, sure. So, coming back home, and one of the themes throughout this book, and so often as we kind of forget in life, is just the gratitude piece of, as I say, when you get to the hotel room at night, it didn't have to be that way, that you got there safely. So be grateful, be thankful that when you get for every flight, when you get back home, be thankful for a great trip and all the experiences and the people that you met. I think that gratitude goes a long way in kind of setting the tone. But the key is that, especially if you're getting this book for somebody that travels and you're using this to introduce them to Young Living products, is to realize that this is just the beginning. Now, let's talk about all the cool things you can do with the Young Living products now that you're home and you don't have to worry about toting things around and getting through security. And so it's a great introduction, I think, again, to get people into the product families and talk about a whole lot of it. We didn't even talk about Ninja Red, which is something we take every day, right? And the Bon Voyage kit that Gary created, which is got the little samples of a bunch of different things. So I talk about that in the book as well, the shampoos and all the things in the hotel room. There's so many little choices you can make at every turn, but the I'm back home part is just, let's make sure that we kind of keep this theme going of natural health, because for some, this could be their introduction to a whole new change in lifestyle that started with a trip.
Absolutely. And people, this book is, like I said, it's really cool, everybody. It's really laid out well, and John's got checklists, and it's really organized. You could tell that you have been a professional trainer for a long time, because you can give people information in a way they can understand it and use it. And it's really evident when you look at this, how you've done this. But the book is available on krepublishing.com, correct?
Yes. So if you just go there and you can just look under the books, you will see it under the book section.
The thing that's important is that you have a version especially for Young Living. If people go to Amazon and they look for this book, they're going to find you just have a general version without all the Young Living stuff in there.
Yeah, the general version on Amazon has Young Living plus a couple of other product lines that I use. I couldn't travel without my Young Living products, but there's some other products that I use that are not Young Living that are in that other book. And that one on Amazon has both a print and a Kindle version. The KRE Publishing is the print-only version. But the one we've been talking about tonight, of course, is the one from KRE Publishing, but it has a lot more Young Living oils in it. So Young Living is in both books, but it's got more in this book.
Yes, so people, if you want the version that has all the Young Living stuff in it, do the krepublishing.com version, and then they'll be able to get everything that they need with that. And I'm looking right now, it's $17.99. People can get the book and do either classes from it or share with people and yada yada. That's perfect. So look for that book, Travel Balance, a Young Living Essential Oils Guide for Travelers. And you've done a great job, John. I thank you for coming on and sharing with everybody what you've done with this, because I'm glad that we connected, because this is just such a great topic and very valuable for people building their businesses.
Yes, I appreciate it, Jen. Thanks for having me on, and I'm thrilled to be able to share this with people, because the world is such an amazing place to see, and a lot of people, really are kind of held back because of certain issues and fears. So I hope this will help people to get out there and go meet new people and spread the word about the oils, right?
Awesome. Well, thanks so much. And let me go ahead and open the line so people can say goodnight to you, okay? Hang on a second. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.